daring reporter who had earlier been held captive in Libya before heading to Syria to report, ironically, on the brutality of the Syrian government against the rebels. In the chilling video posted today, Foley is forced first to make a statement on the American bombing of Iraq. Then his hooted executioner, speaking in English with what seems to be a British accent, addresses President Obama, saying the attacks by the U.S. Air Force had resulted, quote, in the bloodshed of your people. The video then shows the purported beheading of Foley, a disturbing scene, Diane.
Yep, all right, but that's what terrorists do, ladies and gentlemen. And joining us now to talk about, well, a whole bunch of things. We haven't had him on in a while. Dean Obeidallah, columnist for the Daily Beast and former lawyer turned political comedian. Hello, Dean.
Steve, how are you? It's been a while.
Yeah, good to talk to you. Your reaction, first of all, to the beheading video and the threat to behead more Americans in their captivity by ISIS.
ISIS is a barbaric group which is at war with not just, they're at war with civilized humanity, let's be honest. I mean, to me, the I in ISIS stands for insanity. They're a group that is about power. They've slaughtered more Muslims than anyone else. And, you know, they've killed Christians and targeted them, which is horrific. They've killed Mr. Foley, which is horrible. But overwhelmingly, they are killing Muslims. They don't care, Sunni, Shia, the Kurds that they've slaughtered, almost all Sunni Muslims. This is a group that has to be stopped. Clearly, absolutely has to be stopped.
All right. Well, let's talk about a piece you wrote. You wrote several, but Michael Brown, Gaza, and Muslim Americans. And you talk about African Americans and Muslim Americans and how Ferguson has somehow brought them together. Explain that.
Sure. Well, actually, 30% of the American Muslim population is African American. But within the community, and I am Muslim, within our community, there's a lot of times not been a lot of bonding with the African American community and sort of the immigrant or Arab, Middle Eastern Muslims over the years. A lot has to do with the immigrant Muslims bringing some ideas from their countries to here. Some has to do with just racism, frankly, and lack of empathy. But Michael Brown, this incident alone is not the only thing bringing people together in our community. I think it's the racial profiling from the NYPD in New York really woke up a lot of Muslims that we're being profiled too, just because of our faith, like African Americans are for their race. And I think over the last couple of years, we've seen it getting closer together. We see it with Eric Garner. There's a big protest Saturday coming up here in New York. He was the man in NYPD put in a chokehold and who died. There's a big protest that Al Sharpton's leading, and Muslim American organizations in New York are involved with that. So I think you see just a bridging of a gap within our community. It's really within our community of bringing people together because we're all treated the same by law enforcement. African Americans obviously treated much worse with killings, but the idea of being profiled for your faith or your religion or your race is similar enough to bring people together.
Well, how does Michael Brown equal profiling?
Michael Brown, I think for most people, the fact that the police force is overwhelmingly white there in a 2/3 African-American town, that most people subscribe to the fact that there was profiling of him. If he was two white guys, him and his friend walking, the cops wouldn't have done that. Even that's debatable, one or the other.
Oh, well, really? All right. So it's okay to have two people walking in the middle of the street obstructing traffic, and because the cop is white, he should leave the black guy doing it alone?
No. I think there's a history of it, but it's not specifically for Michael Brown. To us, it's really like a trigger point for the idea of protesting against police misconduct overall. We're not really talking about the stopping of them. People get profiled every day in New York. Latin Americans, African Americans, even Muslims on a lower level, but still Muslim Americans. That's not the case. It's really the misconduct. It's the killing of Michael Brown that really.
And what do we know about the killing of Michael Brown? We've gotten word today reinforcing the account of the police officer. This time we hear that he was beaten nearly unconscious by Michael Brown, who broke his eye socket, reached for his gun. We hear that there's evidential proof, without a doubt, that the gun went off during the struggle when Michael Brown reached for it. We have supposedly 12 eyewitnesses and this is all supposed, 12 eyewitnesses who back up the cop's story that Michael Brown then ran after the gun went off, turned around with his hands up and said, "You're not going to shoot me," and charged at him. And a groggy police officer, fearing for his life, shot a man who the video showed just robbed a store. That's police brutality. That's your example of police brutality?
I think, too, as the facts get known, opinions can change. I'll be honest with you, Steve. Opinions can change. What we know now, up until the latest news, an unarmed black man killed, shot 6 times by a police officer. That's what we know. That's what we know. There's no disputing that. We all know that. If it was justified or not, that's a debate. And people are going to have that debate. It'll be litigated. We'll go to court probably. There may not be an indictment, but if there is, it'll be litigated fully. You know, we have Eric Gardner in New York choked on video by the NYPD, chokehold, the man dies within minutes. There's numerous cases, obviously, of unarmed black men being killed by police officers in America.
Well, by the way, I just want to stop you. When you say unarmed, I'm just talking in general now. It's one thing to find out after. Wait. It's one thing to find out after the fact that someone is unarmed. But if a police, how did the Michael Brown cop know he was unarmed? How did the chokehold cops know he was unarmed? Were they cuffed? Were they searched and cuffed and then shot by the police or choked by the police? So when you say unarmed, how do the cops know that someone who's giving them trouble is unarmed? Tell me how that works.
So the police can then shoot anyone who gives them trouble, because you never know if they have a gun. That would be a horrible.
No. If they feel that they're in danger of their life, they could shoot. But this unarmed, what does that mean? What does that mean, unarmed?
It means no knife and no gun or any, like a bat or a pipe or something. If the police officer, and what you just said is absolutely true, if a police officer fears for their life, reasonably feels for their life, they can use deadly force. But they have to see a weapon. They can't assume a guy, whatever the race of the person is, might have a gun, so I'm going to shoot him. You can't do that. And when someone charges...
Wait. You say, no. But you say they have to see a weapon. Not necessarily. If this cop in Ferguson was punched and beaten so severely that he was taken to the hospital afterward by the associate chief, as it's reported today, or assistant chief, with broken bones in his face, and he was nearly knocked out, then the guy's charging at him. He already took his gun once, allegedly. He has to see a gun before he could shoot?
No, you actually, if you reasonably believe you're in fear of your life, reasonably, a police officer could probably use deadly force. Police officers have pepper spray. They have mace. They have other opportunities to use things that are non-lethal, and the police will tell you that. They don't want to use lethal force. That's the last resort. We're going to know more. But what you're saying...
I want to go to this. I want to go to this relationship.
One thing. The police in Ferguson couldn't have done a worse job. This information that you're saying today should have come out day one for all of us. You know, and the result is the whole narrative is different than what we know, and it might be different. What you're saying, Steve, might be 100% true. The police officer feared for his life, used his weapon, and killed a man who he thought was going to kill him. You know, a jury might make that determination. Why didn't the police reveal this? If this man actually had to get medical treatment, had his eye socket damaged, and I'm not saying it's not true, why wasn't that released right away? That should have come out right away so the narrative becomes out more fair and less heated, so people aren't quickly going, it's another case of an unarmed black man being shot by a white police officer, so we're all up in arms. That's what we hear. And again, the Ferguson police could not have, I just played golf with the police officer the other day. It could have done worse. They could have done a worse job of getting the information out. This is ridiculous.
Well, it's still incumbent upon people not to riot and not to hurt people, hurt other people.
I agree with that. Absolutely not. I agree with you. No place for rioting whatsoever.
All right. Let's talk. You talk about Gaza and how people in Gaza could relate to this. I mean, I don't see this at all. I mean, in this topsy-turvy, mixed up, crazy media world of ours, where the media and this administration, unfortunately, believes Israel's the bad guy and Hamas are the good guys, but believes the cops are the bad guy and Michael Brown was an innocent victim without any investigation right off the bat. That's the sickness of the world in which we live.
Well, I don't know who's saying Hamas is a good guy. I'm not. Hamas is a terrorist group. They're despicable, and they make the lives of Palestinians more difficult. And I'm Palestinian heritage, and I can tell you that point blank. They're terrible. So I don't see in my circles or in the media people pro-Hamas. I see people talking about the humanity of the Palestinians who were killed, the civilian count. very, very high. We see images on social media, and it's moved people in ways we've never seen before. That's what happened. What I put in my article were tweets from people either in Gaza or in the West Bank tweeting specifically about Ferguson. I wasn't guessing they were talking about it. They put hashtag Ferguson or Michael Brown, and other news media outlets, Independent, Huffington Post, had picked it up. And I just put it in my article because sort of the connection of people who view themselves oppressed. African Americans view themselves in certain circumstances, not all, but some view themselves as oppressed in America. Many Palestinians view themselves as oppressed. That's what the tweets were about. I'm not saying they're the same scenario whatsoever. But just so it's clear, Hamas is horrible. And if you see anyone in the media defending Hamas, tell me, and I will write something denouncing them. There should be no defense.
I see them equating Hamas with Israel all of the time. Both sides are being stubborn in negotiations. You know, putting Hamas spokespeople on right after an Israeli spokesperson, equating the two. Anyway, Dean, gotta go. Dean Obeidallah, ladies and gentlemen. We'll come back next. Give me 5 on the Steve Malzberg Show.